If you're a kid and you were watching your favorite anime or cartoon and there wasn't a particular character that you wanted to marry, then I would call you a liar. If you're well into the fandom spaces, you probably would be familiar with the concept of OC, X-canon, self-shipping, and or Yume shipping. These terms are within the same umbrella, though a little bit different.
But I have no idea what any of that even means.
Not to worry, person who isn't as chronically online as I am. Let's break down these terms a little bit. So the word canon is a term that's used to refer to anything or anyone in a series that is official and happens within its source material. Characters in a series, the way that somebody acts, the storyline. If it happens in real time whenever you watch or read a story, then that's considered canon. OC stands for original character. Fan OCs are fan-made characters made by a fan of that franchise for that franchise. Someone who isn't officially in the source material. OCs can just be any character that you yourself can make, but what if that OC is you or represents you? Have you ever wondered, what would I be like in this universe in the series that I like? Or what would my name and powers be? Then congratulations, you made a self-insert OC. The term OC X canon refers to a romantic pairing between a canon character of a franchise and an original character. Usually this stems when a fan really likes a character and wants to imagine themselves in a relationship with their favorite character. I think a vast majority of the people in fandom spaces currently and even way back then full-heartedly believe that these OCs are filled with cringe and shouldn't exist. But you know what? I believe that fan OCs are such an inevitable and harmless form of self-expression that a lot of fans and fan artists can have. I think when it comes to fan OCs or self-shipping in general, a lot of people are afraid of being public about it and fears of being too cringy in the public fandom spaces. But I want to reassure my fellow nerds that it is okay, I've been there. So let's go ahead and ease the fandom tension while I expose and redraw some of my own self-insert OCs from when I was a kid. If you're like me, you probably have a lot of OCs with so much lore and connections. Sometimes it can be so hard to keep up with all the details. If you're having any similar struggles, you can turn to a very handy website from this video's sponsor, Unvale. Unvale is a really cool website by creatives for creatives. Being a 100% AI-free community, the Unvale team strives to make the platform a place where artists, writers, and storytellers alike can utilize to organize and place any original content that you might be able to brainstorm. There are already over 200,000 other creatives who are connecting with one another on Unvale. Let's take a look really quickly on the different features that they have on their website. There are character pages where we can see a user's entire roster of their own OCs, writing that expands upon any lore that the user has or wants to elaborate, and even worlds where you can see which designated universe a character is a part of. And if you share universes with your friends and your friends' OCs, you can collaborate on universes so you can build upon them together. Through Unvale, you can spark your own inspiration by seeing daily prompts like Unvale's question of the day, which allows you to dabble a little bit about expanding small details about your OCs, or even exploring and discovering other artists on the platform and seeing their own OCs and original content. The community is active and interactive, so it's super fun to be able to see what other creatives are making. Now scrolling through my own Unvale account, let's see our first self-insert OC. Yes, here we go. I remember one of my first self-insert OCs was one that I created when I was in the first grade, and I was totally obsessed with Naruto. It's one of the first anime series that I've ever gotten into. Little Kid Light drew herself along with Team 7 and all of the other Naruto genin, and little me, of course, being in love with Sasuke Uchiha. My character was the exception when it comes to his emo antics. My OC's name was relatively just my legal name, so we're just gonna go ahead and call her Kimiko. I had to dig to see if I had any old art of Kimiko, and I'm very lucky that somehow I still do. I want to say these handful of drawings were from like 2008, so when I was in the 4th grade. Look at her, god, this art is so old. So let's talk a little bit about Kimiko's backstory. Kimiko was a prodigy who was best friends with Naruto and Sasuke and hated Sakura. Classic. Sasuke hated everybody, but he trusted Kimiko with everything because she was one of his childhood friends. Their dynamic was one of a childhood friends to lovers type deal since they were always together as kids. So close in fact that when it came to the Uchiha clan massacre, she was there with Sasuke, in which Itachi spared both her and Sasuke. Sasuke because of the love that Itachi had for his brother, and Kimiko because she technically wasn't a true Uchiha. What does this mean, you might ask? Well, one of her parents was from the Uchiha clan, and the other was from the Hyuga clan. Honestly, I don't remember much about her, aside from the fact that she had both the Sharingan and the Byakugan. So do you know what her full name was? It was Kimiko Uchiha. I need a moment of silence for that one. But when it came to the overall dynamic that Kimiko had, she was practically like a self-insert 4th member of Team 7. I don't know if there was much more to her other than being a love interest to Sasuke. I don't remember she stayed in Konoha or left with him to see Orochimaru, but I wouldn't be surprised if Little Light made it so Kimiko would always stay by Sasuke's side. I do remember that she was skilled in fighting, got along with everybody except for Sakura and Ino, was best friends with Naruto and Hinata, all that fun stuff. Kimiko definitely is a prime example of an overpowered, perfect character, but I do have to respect the creativity and passion that little light has, wanting to be all-powerful and fight alongside the characters that she loved growing up. And here we have the finished art for the Naruto version of Kimiko. Now I'm going to follow through with another type of confession expose. Sometimes when people make self-ships, they make a completely different unique character for each series, but no, not me. Every single one of these OCs are still Kimiko, just a different font or a different surname to signify her in different universes. This just proves my attachment to the self-insert growing up. Some people would call this a multiverse OC, I suppose. Enter my next childhood self-insert OC. Kimiko Calliswood was my fairy tale OC, and I was so obsessed with fairy tale in middle school. I think out of every Kimiko, I have the most art of her. She was a water mage with the ability to fly with water wings, resembling a fairy. I believe I used to give her the title the Water Fairy of Fairy Tale. Fun fact, when Steven Universe was airing and I saw Lapis Lazuli and her also having water wings, years later after I made my OC, I was floored. Rebecca Sugar, I'm gonna file a copyright claim. Anyways, her love interest was Grateful Buster. As a kid, I was a really big Nolly shipper.
Boo.
Yeah, I know. Hold your horses, guys. I didn't like Gruvia or Nalu.
What is your
Like, you are so
problem?
not skimedy. Please stop.
So to mirror Kimiko's relationship to Grey, to Natsu and Lisada's, I also had them raise an egg as children to become her partner in crime, a little star named Luna, who was practically a bootleg Luma, let's be honest, but of course, as a kid, I absolutely despised Juvia, which is ironic because presently I actually really like Juvia, but anyways, as a kid, I definitely portrayed Juvia being absolutely jealous and enraged at the fact that Kimiko and Grey were close. A lot of the art was evolved around that love triangle, and to be honest, I think as a kid, constantly drawing Juvia and her also being water-based, which was a thing that I loved growing up, I probably ended up growing fond of her in the end. The love rivalry was evidently shown to be one-sided on Juvia's end, probably because middle school Light wanted to portray Kimiko as a selfless, pure person who couldn't have a bone of hatred in her body even for a girl who antagonized her. And I'm pretty sure in the end, I had Juvia give up on Grey and ended up being in love with Leon while they became besties. I find it weird that I actually talked more about Juvia here than Grey. I should have just shipped Kimiko Juvia instead. From what I remember, Kimiko and Grey were practically huge complementaries of one another. Another victim of the childhood friends to lovers connected by Luna. I think they were a gradual, very slow burn type of deal. The little fairy tale pin she wears is actually a gift from Grey to Kimiko. And I think it was very funny because as a kid, I was like, yeah, the pin is actually made out of Grey's ice that can't unfreeze, which was the ice shell. Not remembering that the ice shell immobilizes the caster, yeah, I think I changed that up later, but it's so funny to note. But on that note, here's the finished art for the fairy tale Kimiko. Another fun fact, these Kimikos are actually the only ones with a unique last name. Because of my influence with fairy tale, guess what Kimiko's last name was from now on? For the rest of the multiverses, her full name was Kimiko Mishima. So I usually just reference them from the anime that they're from. Oh, the good old days of drawing self-inserts as a kid. How nostalgic.
Bro, you still do it though.
Dude, what the fuck? Okay, I'll share a more modern day type of self-insert OC. One that I made for Demon Slayer when I was in college. I made this Kimiko when I was first into Demon Slayer, which was back in 2019 when the anime was still stepping into the scene, but I was fully caught up with the manga. This Kimiko was a Demon Slayer in a Demon Slayer corpse who uses the breath of water, and her love interest was Rengoku Kyojuro. In the vast majority of the multiverses, Kimiko has an older brother named Ichiro. In this verse, Ichiro was an esteemed Demon Slayer, but was devoured by a high-ranking demon. Saddened and enraged with the news, it was her life goal to find that demon who killed him and get revenge. Nobody knew the identity of the demon, so Kimiko cut off all of her hair, having her hairstyle resemble her brother's. So when a demon were to ever have a double take and recognize her, Kimiko would know that they were the one to kill her brother. Throughout the grieving of the loss of her brother, Rengoku was the one to motivate her and cheer her up. So finding the comfort and light in Rengoku, you can see that she'd be even more crushed and devastated upon hearing the news of Rengoku's death. Their relationship was more of like a budding co-workers, in which Rengoku of course is a pillar, yet Kimiko was a normal demon slayer. Kimiko's appearance in the self-insert story is that of a side quest for Tanjiro and his gang, canon divergence if you will, with a small story in regards to protecting a local village and its orphanage with one of their workers having Marechi blood, which warrants further protection. Here during the mission, Kimiko and Tanjiro would bond over their grief in regards to Rengoku, and she would have actually offered to help mentor him and the other kids after the mission is over. But along the mission, it was discovered that the demons who were targeting the orphanage were the same ones who defeated Ichiro. Determined to give it her all with the help of the kids, Kimiko ended up defeating these demons and obtaining her revenge, but at the cost of her life. Before she departs, she apologizes to Tanjiro for leaving him, as well as bidding the rest of the kids good luck in defeating Muzan, and she joins her brother and Rengoku in the afterlife. I think this is the only Kimiko to have canonically died, to be honest, but that's the TLDR of the Demon Slayer Kimiko. Man, with Kimiko, I think it's so funny talking about her in public eyes, because when it comes to myself as an archetype, it's so evident on how I portray female characters who are somewhat in relation to me. Let's say, for example, my protagonist and my webtoon protector's will Keiko, my darling girl who has grown up with me, is visually similar to Kimiko, but completely different, okay? Future audiences, I need you to be able to tell the differences between these characters, okay? This is Kimiko, this is Keiko, this is Light. Kimiko, Keiko, Light. Engrave this into your head. Moral of the story, I think everybody has their fair share of cringe experiences when it comes to self-expression with their fandom that they love, whether it's stuff like fan art, fan fiction, cosplay, etc. I think all of this is integral to what makes fandom culture the way that it is. And I think it's very important nowadays to be able to embrace it rather than ridicule others for having fun in their own ways. I may not be one to publish my self-inserts in public, but I have huge self-respect for people who do. I think my path of creating the multiple Kimikos throughout my whole life wholeheartedly shaped who I am today as an artist and helped me build my art skills to where I am today. Will I continue making self-inserts for future media? Maybe. I feel like I'm more on the creating regular OCs for fun and not necessarily more Kimikos. The fun is still there whenever I feel like it. Admittedly, after Demon Slayer, the only other Kimiko was for Genshin Impact back in 2020, but I haven't made anything else since then. Since I've been working on other projects, YouTube videos, content, and trying to revive Protector's Will slowly, Kimiko is practically in the retirement home. But in the end, if you're somebody who loves making self-shipping art or somebody who is afraid of drawing it for the sake of being cringe, don't worry. I and a lot of other artists have your back, and I can't wait to stare and marvel at more designs if I ever come across any on my social media feeds. Until next time.